floating around the internet, Rob, right?
So we might as well go on. It's actually next. So stratagem, crotch shield. Change this rules text to read: use a stratagem after clan infantry unit from your army, excluding units comprised entirely of Gretchen models, has been hit by a ranged weapon. Until the end of the phase, you can roll a d6 each time an attack made with a ranged weapon wounds that unit. If there is a friendly unit comprised of entirely of Orc Gretchen infantry models within 6, and that Gretchen unit is closer to the attacking model than the target unit. On a 2+, this is the key line. On a 2+, one model of your choice, and that Gretchen unit is slain, and the attack sequence ends. WTF does that mean?
Yeah, you got to think about the fact that the game is designed to roll one dice at a time. So there was a little bit of discussion online when this rule dropped that if I had 20 shots on my Castellan and I shot at your orcs, the first time I wounded you, you would roll a 2+, and then all my shooting actions would stop. So you would kill one grot, and I would lose a whole 600 points worth of shooting. But you have to stop and think that each shooting attack, it has its own sequence. It rolls to hit, it rolls to wound, then there's an armor save, then there's damage. But this rule basically takes that, and you roll to hit, you roll to wound, you stop right there, roll your 2+ with a Gretchen, and remove a Gretchen, and the rest of the sequence stops. So you never roll any saves, you never get to damage. So it's not, none of these things are going to kill multiple Gretchen, which is I think maybe how the old rule was worded, because it went to actual damage to the orc units.
It also means, yeah, the sequence ends because they're saying like you don't do anything else. But if you didn't roll the 2 and you only roll the 1, the sequence continues.
Yeah, then you
what
go
they mean by
right
that
back
is,
into saves.
They mean is that there's a save, and then you roll damage.
Yep.
Simple. But okay, it's simple when it's broken down concisely by Sean that way. But I can see how it can easily be interpreted to mean that like you get fucked.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be interpreted a bunch of different ways. You could go Tau drone with it. You could go. I mean, just the way Sean said it. Not everybody has that.
Oh yeah, if you don't dig into it, it's like, oh, savior protocols. It's the same thing. I got it. It's not the same thing actually. Savior protocols. There's actually it's mortal wounds. Converts the damage to mortal wounds. Say mortal wound.
Yeah. So if there was a way to give grots feel no pain, I don't know if pain boys work for grots or anything like that in the codex, but this is saying that you don't get anything like that because it's not dealing with mortal wounds to Gretchen. You're removing them as a casualty right at that step.
Yeah, that's the biggest, I think, takeaway, because there was actually people trying to give them, KFF 5 of them, feel no pain or invulnerables, and then stacking a pain boy next to them, right? So like, yeah, none of that shit. This is a cool enough ability as it is. It is definitely going to keep some people alive. I do like the verbiage saying that it's the sequencing is stopped. So that actually brings up to a point that we actually had to rule on in a tournament at the Beats Live this past weekend, where Ludas are shooting at other Ludas. And the multiple damage came into play. If you look at it, how do you interpret multiple damage? Because the verbiage didn't say sequencing stops. So you have to do one at a time. So I'm glad that it happens. Tighten it up some.
Right, and because everyone thinks fast dice rolling is actually a suggestion. So a lot of us get confused because you're typically taking 30 dice, rolling them all at once. You're like, oh, the sequence is over. No, they didn't take into consideration that. They just used a wording that supports the rules, which is 1 by 1 by 1. Attack sequence ends means like you have an attack. You have a weapon that has 3 attacks, right? Technically, you roll them 1 by 1. Each one is an attack sequence. And if people choose to interpret it as, well, that's it. GW just come back. Just come back on FAQ again.
Yeah.
But because that's not the way it works. You can just tell. Like that'd be the most ridiculous thing in the world. You could never get through a Gretchen wall. That means like literally 30 Gretchen could absorb like fucking 1,000 shots.